Okay, hi. I would like to model for you close reading and an analysis of the poem The Black Walnut Tree by Mary Oliver. Okay, so this is how I would do it. First, I'm going to read it through, and then I'm going to read it, and I'll stop at places where something occurs to me that's going on. Okay, this is The Black Walnut Tree. My mother and I debate. We could sell the black walnut tree to the lumberman and pay off the mortgage. Likely some storm anyway will churn down its dark boughs, smashing the house. We talk slowly, two women trying in a difficult time to be wise. Roots in the cellar drains, I say, and she replies that the leaves are getting heavier every year and the fruit harder to gather away. But something brighter than money moves in our blood, an edge sharp and quick as a trowel, that wants us to dig and sow. So we talk, but we don't do anything. That night I dream of my fathers out of Bohemia, filling the blue fields of fresh and generous Ohio, with leaves and vines and orchards. What my mother and I both know is that we'd crawl with shame in the emptiness we'd made in our own and our father's backyard. So the black walnut tree swings through another year of sun and leaping winds, of leaves and bounding fruit, and month after month, the whip crack of the mortgage. Okay, so one of my tips for you is to read a poem straight through because you kind of want to step back from it and you want to kind of get a sense of the big picture. So now I want to read and I want to stop at parts where I have a thought about maybe something that's going on in terms of literary devices or meaning. Okay? All right. The black walnut tree. My mother and I debate we could sell the black walnut tree to the lumberman and pay off the mortgage. Likely some storm anyway will churn down its dark boughs, smashing the house. Okay, and then we have a period, so that's our first sentence. And so we have a conflict presented here that it's her and her mother, and they're thinking over about selling this black walnut tree. I also think about the idea of a black walnut tree and how that it's a valuable thing, that it bears fruit, that is the walnut, and that, well, let's see. We talk slowly, two women trying in a difficult time to be wise. Okay, there again, the conflict that is, they're not necessarily convinced that they want to sell this tree, and that on some level it's valuable to them, so they have to debate, okay? We talk slowly, two women trying in a difficult time to be wise. Roots in the cellar drains, I say, and she replies that the leaves are getting heavier every year and the fruit harder to gather away. So now it's occurring to me that we have some imagery here, that we've got this sort of troubled imagery of roots in the cellar drains, and I think of, as a homeowner, I think of my own, the plumbing in my house and how roots are generally sort of a undesirable thing to be creeping into your, plumbing pipes, that it sounds very expensive. Okay? Leaves getting heavier every year and the fruit harder to gather away. So this is all sort of imagery that suggests the tree as kind of a burden each year to them. But something brighter than money moves in our blood. Okay, this is interesting. I feel like a shift going on in tone there. That is, the beginning of the poem started out kind of dark and kind of like conflicted, but now I'm getting sort of a happier metaphor, an analogy. Something brighter than money moves in our blood. So this is not a literal moving in their blood, but she's referring to the conflict that they're dealing with. On one hand, the selling of the tree would bring them great money, but there's something more important than money to them about this tree. So let's find out what it is. An edge sharp and quick as a trowel that wants us to dig and sow. So I understand that a trowel is a little shovel, and it's talking about, it's giving us this garden imagery. And sharp and quick as a trowel would be a simile, right? So we talk, but we don't do anything. That night I dream of my fathers out of Bohemia, filling the blue fields of fresh and generous Ohio with leaves and vines and orchards. Okay, again, very vivid imagery, but there's a change in this imagery. This imagery is very positive. We're talking about blue fields, fresh and generous Ohio with leaves and vines and orchards. So it's all this beautiful plant or farming or harvest imagery. Also, we've got this idea of her father's out of Bohemia, and so that seems to be a reference to her ancestors, that perhaps her people came over from Europe, and so they, her, these ancestors that she's referring to are the people that established them in Ohio. So now I'm beginning to get this idea that is this tree operating on a symbolic level, that is, her forefathers, her ancestors planted this tree, so it ties her to her immigrant ancestors that worked their tails off to establish them in America. And so now I'm beginning to get this idea of how it could be a great conflict for them to sell out their forefathers, okay? What my mother and I both know is that we'd crawl with shame in the emptiness we'd made in our own and our father's backyard. So here we've got a metaphor or an analogy. We crawl with shame in the emptiness we'd made. Okay, so she's not talking about a literal crawling, but how horrified they'd be that they sold out their heritage. Okay, so the black walnut tree swings through another year of sun and leaping winds. Again, the very positive imagery of leaves and bounding fruit, and month after month the whip crack of the mortgage. So there we've got this onomatopoeia, this whip crack, this it's like it's the sound. So we've got this again, the conflict, that is, they're experiencing hard times financially, but their choice is clear. Okay, that's all I've got. Thank you.